smokes, that happened so fast. Sorry I couldn't get it on camera. I'll have to tell y'all about it in a minute. There has been bug after bug running through here. Holy smokes. This camera was dead. Alright, so while I'm letting the tractor warm up, we'll talk for just a second. We start off by saying self-filming a deer hunt is one of the most complicated things I have ever attempted to do. And I've only ever pulled it off once. It's just so difficult not having a second person to focus on cameras while you focus on, well, harvesting the animal. So I've been hunting a few days now, included some of that footage at the beginning of this video. And then as you've seen this morning, I hope, I discovered my GoPro battery was dead because apparently I had threw my GoPro in my backpack at some point the last few days. It had turned it on and drained the battery. So I kicked the camera on this morning. Maybe I got some footage, maybe I did not, before it died again. I had a doe tear through. At first I heard grunting, an actual buck grunting. I already knew something was up. So I'm fumbling around trying to get my cameras turned on, trying to get my gun ready. Here comes a doe tearing across in front of me. Right on her heels is a 6-point, but he's a very small 6-point. I couldn't even get my gun up in time anyways. They take off. But now I know that doe's in heat, and I'm still looking back and watching because often there'll be more than one doe chasing. Sure enough, as you just seen on some footage that I had right there, there was a 3-point kind of lagging along. He knew better than to go compete with the 6-point for the doe, but he's hot on the trail too. Obviously, the smell is in the air. So I'm continuing to look left even though the deer went right, because I'm wondering, could a third buck potentially be on the trail of this doe? Sure enough, about 5 minutes later, I just had, it looks like a bigger, mature 5-point. We get random weird little bucks here in Florida. It's just the way it is. We don't have monster bucks here. He come in. I knew I was going to take this deer because it was far bigger than the 6-point that done come through and the little 3-point. So he's hot on the trail running. All I could do was just say, hey. He stopped. He looked up. I was able to put the shot right here, drop him in his tracks, but I could not get any of my cameras on in time because literally by the time I seen him, got my gun, he's already in front of me about to leave because he's kind of trotting and running too like the rest of them. No way I could get the camera going in time. Bummer that I couldn't get that on video, but I decided to go ahead and include this anyways, the experience, because I've had so many people on our other channel, The Kelly's Country Life, want to be a part of this, want to get the experience. So now I'm in the tractor. I'm going to go back there and load the deer up because it's close enough I can drive the tractor to. And I have learned in life, work smarter, not harder. I have thrown my back out, and I've seen my father throw his back out on lifting deer into the back of trucks. I am going to put the bucket on the front of the tractor, and we're going to allow the tractor to go do the heavy lifting for me and put this deer in the back of the truck. Alright, so let's get down here and take a look at the deer. I'm going to go ahead and forewarn y'all. Going to get a little graphic because there's blood on the neck where I had to shoot the deer. So I'm sitting up here in this stand, had to shoot through these vines right here because when I finally hollered and got it to stop, it come running from here to there. It's the only shot I had, and it seen me at that point. So it's a decent size 5-point. Our deer do not get very large here in Florida, although occasionally you'll see some good ones. We'll talk about that in a minute. But our rules here state that it has to have 3 on one side, which this does. There is a little over an inch long point right there, or a 10-inch main beam, which this qualifies for either one. I got to drag it uphill this entire way. The camera doesn't do it justice. This is actually quite a ways uphill for Florida standards. Okay, I know a lot of y'all are going to be very curious about my new lab puppy Ruger's first experience with a deer. He is yet to really see it. He's on the ground, he can smell, he's growling, he's barking, he wants to know what the heck's going on up here. And I do need to start introducing him to things like this. He's jumping up on the trailer now. I'm gonna toss him in, let him smell the deer, learn these scents and things, since this is an important part of what we do here on the property, harvesting our meat this way. So I want him to get the full experience. Alright, go up there. What is that? What is that? He is not sure what to make of that. Look at him. What do you think about that? What is that? See, that thing's a lot bigger than you, huh? Although our Florida deer are quite small. This is definitely an average size Florida deer. What do you think about that, buddy? Go ahead, smell it. It ain't gonna bite you. What is that? What is it? All right, so here is one last look before we get this deer processed up. I'll explain that in just a second. Me and Ruger's about to take us a ride. Show, buddy. All right, so to wrap this video up for the people that want to hear me yak for a couple of minutes, let's go ahead and address a couple of questions. So I decided to release this video even though I did not catch the actual kill shot, because again, so many of our viewers have asked to please include this content in the process, and I have explained it is so unbelievably difficult to record your own hunt. My hat's off to the people that pull it off. Like I said, I've only been able to pull it off one time. So before I start reading and hearing all the comments of, oh, you should have let that deer walk, you should shoot the bigger ones, save it. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, this may rub a few people wrong, but our industry, our outdoor and hunting and fishing industry has somehow fallen under a spell over the last few decades that you've got to go trophy hunt and trophy fish for everything. And while I have absolutely no problem with that, I respect everybody's views and opinions on going out and passing up on all the younger deer and multiple ones to try to get that big rack. At the end of the day, as far as fish and deer and animals in general go, I think the good Lord put them on this earth for our consumption, our nourishment, and our time to be spent out in the beautiful outdoors. So whenever I choose to legally harvest something, I still have rules and laws to abide by, and that was a legal animal to harvest. I wish people would respect that, because I respect that for everybody else. I don't know how we've got into this trophy hunt and trophy fishing industry that we have, whereas at the end of the day, you can't eat the antlers. Now I understand there's some benefits to allowing deer to grow bigger and more mature. It's healthier for the herd and population, but at the same time, what I personally truly hunt for is two things. Just the Mother Nature experience, the peace of it, the becoming closer to God, being outdoors. It's kind of my church. That's all wrapped up in one. And two, the food, the nourishment. By far, the majority of mine and Tiffany's red meat intake has always been deer meat. And I guarantee you, me and Tiffany were talking about this the other day, probably in the last 12 to 15 years, I can't recall us ever once buying ground meat from the grocery store. We just don't buy it. Now, steaks and other things like that, yes, we still purchase. But cube steak, ground meat, certain roast and things, every bit of that comes every single year from us harvesting deer. So it's something I'm passionate about, something I believe in. At the end of the day, us having food on the table, a freezer full, and just good memories out in the field, that's what hunting truly is about to me. All right, and to answer the final question, people are gonna ask, why am I not processing this deer myself? Well, it turns out pretty much all the deer I do harvest, I process myself. I grind my own meat, I cut my cube steak, everything. We actually have a decent amount of deer still left in the freezer from last year. My father and some other people had good, generous seasons and generously donated me some meat. Plus, I harvested a deer last year, so I wound up putting up quite a bit. I'm good on ground meat, cube steak, all that stuff. The only thing I haven't got into making is breakfast sausage. I make my own summer sausage and everything else. So I'm actually carrying this deer over to a company locally that makes some amazing smoke link breakfast sausage. I'm eventually going to get into making my own and trying, but their seasoning and everything's perfect. I've tried a lot of other people's, and I kind of hate to mess with something that's so good. Tiffany and I have been desiring some. We've actually been out of sausage for over a year. We're craving it. We know this company does it right. Later this year, if I harvest a few more, I'll start doing some experimental sausage myself, but everything else I process, and any deer that I harvest from here on out the rest of the year, I will also process myself. I've got a full room set up to do that. All right, well, hopefully y'all still enjoyed that. Hey, I am so blessed and thankful that we finally got us a deer this season. I'm gonna go continue to try to get more. I've already got some good footage recorded in other places I've been hunting, and hopefully I can catch the next one on camera as it happens, and I'll be sure to include that. Thank y'all so much for watching. Catch you on the next video.